Good morning, everyone. I am Jonathan Little. We are live. I believe we're live on all the platforms today. Last time we weren't live on YouTube because their algorithm got me for nothing. They immediately removed the ban as soon as I messaged them. So we're back on YouTube. We're here on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch. So that's all good. A lot of people like to think the sky's falling whenever one little bad thing happens. But it's important to make sure you're on many platforms. You all found me on Wednesday, despite us not being on YouTube, which is the most popular platform. And also, usually it's a mistake if you didn't do anything wrong. And I didn't do anything wrong, so clearly it's a mistake. People fix their mistakes. So, usually the sky is not falling. Don't get too excited. Let's see, what is happening here? There we go. All right. You like to watch on YouTube. I like to watch on YouTube too. YouTube has a lot of good features. But they ban poker players every once in a while. So is that a feature or a bug? I'm not exactly sure. So today, we're going to be discussing optimal study. How do you go about studying poker in a way that will make you as good as you can be as fast as we can get you there? Now, realize at different points in your career, you're going to need to be doing different things, right? For example, if you don't know the hand rankings, well, you sure better know the hand rankings, because if you don't know what beats what, you're not going to win. Let's discuss, though, first things first, what are you trying to learn? It's very, 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 very important to ask yourself, what game am I trying to learn, and what do I need to study to get good at that? And what a lot of people do very incorrectly is they'll be playing, let's say, $1 buy-in tournaments, and they'll be watching someone stream themselves playing $1,000 buy-in tournaments. Or they will be studying a straight GTO program and trying to follow it blindly. But that is almost certainly a big mistake, because those are not the players you are playing against. I've heard many people back in the day when there were some training sites that had a lot of heads-up players. People loved watching the heads-up action. Hey, it's happening right now, right? The Phil Galfond Challenge. Some people are out there literally watching that all day, every day, yet they play no-limit hold'em poker tournaments. At least that's what they're trying to learn. They're certainly not trying to learn heads-up pot limit Omaha, right? And while there's nothing wrong with watching things for entertainment, if you're watching people play heads-up PLO to try to better your poker skills, that's kind of ridiculous, right? I don't think I've ever even had the opportunity to play a live heads-up pot limit Omaha cash game. And online, I don't think there's tons of action. And it's like, why are you spending your time doing this? And it's because they think that watching any poker content is acceptable and applicable. But it's just not, right? Unless you plan on playing that game. If you are going to be playing Pot Limit Omaha, well, you're probably going to find that you want to be playing six-handed or something like that instead, which is more applicable to live games, decent amount of online games, etc., etc. So you want to make sure you're studying whatever game you are studying. I fell victim to this. This is a thing you can be a victim of. I fell victim to this a long time ago when they had a lot of very high stakes PLO action. I was a member to various training sites, and I'd be watching the heads up PLO action back in the day. Whenever I guess it got me excited, right? And in reality, it was just a waste of my time, a straight waste of my time. And I don't want you all to waste your time like I did. But again, if you watch it purely to entertain yourself, I guess that's okay. So, make sure you are studying the game you're trying to learn at roughly the stakes you're trying to learn at, or perhaps a little bit higher, right? So if you are going to be watching streams, which we're going to get to that in a minute, if you are going to be watching streams, don't watch streams that are just like significantly higher stakes than you or significantly different structures than the games you play. Like say you normally play regular freeze-out tournaments, yet the person you like watching plays progressive knockout tournaments only or mostly. Well, that content's going to be like kind of relevant, but not so relevant, right? So you need to be a little bit specific when it comes to this. And that is important. So, next, on top of making sure you're studying the content that is very similar to what you are learning, you also want to make sure that you're learning in an interactive way. One of the, I don't know if it's not necessarily a bad thing, but like not such a great use of your time is doing something like passively watching training videos, or passively watching a Twitch stream, or passively watching poker on television, right? These things are all fun, interesting, entertaining, etc., but they're not so good for study. Old Wisco, welcome, one of our Twitch subscribers. Hello, hello. See the little shark emoticon? Isn't that cute? You have to get your emote icons on. So, when I watch poker on TV today, I'll tell you exactly how I go about watching it. I watch poker on TV about 1 day per month, which I wish it was more, but it's not. And what I do is I will basically record usually just like high-stakes cash game type stuff or high-stakes tournament stuff. I will fast forward through every obvious spot. I will not watch anyone sweat like tanking. And you can get through an hour show in about 15 minutes. That is an hour of educational poker content on TV. And in those scenarios, what I'm doing when I'm watching the TV shows is I am taking notes on anything that the players who I think are very good are doing differently than what I would do in those spots. So it's almost like I am playing along with them, and if they do something different than what I would do, I ask myself, is that reasonable? Would I do that sometimes? And if the answer is yes, I don't worry about it, but if it's something very different, I'll go and look into it and talk to my friends about it and whatnot. But when I watch an hour show on TV and I'm observing the world-class players, we're really not all that far off. So I may end up going through like 4 hours of content and only having 1 or 2 notes, right? It's even worth considering. And is that a good use of your time? Well, to some extent. What I actually started doing is I started having someone transcribe all of the relevant pots on the high-stakes tournaments on Poker Go into hand histories for me. That way I could just if you watch an hour show, right, there's probably only 4 relevant hands. Because if it goes raise all in, call, it's no big deal. And that is a good way to get through it quickly. It's all about maximizing time. Kevin says, you watch Weekly Poker Hand. Yeah, so that's actually a good example of something that I try to do that's relatively fast and relatively concise and relatively educational, right? Because it's not just, here's a hand, figure it out. It's more like me trying to explain. Have I seen Poker Out Loud? I have not. I do not know what that is. You're up to $100 an hour at 1-3. Well, you're probably running hot. But congrats, you're crushing it. How do you learn numbers while studying? Well, study a lot away from the table, and you don't have to worry about it when you're in the game. You will eventually know them. And it's not necessarily a memorization thing. It's more of just getting lots of experience, and you will inevitably figure it out. We're getting ahead of ourselves, though. It's very important that whatever you're learning is interactive. Interactive study is highly important, which is why my training site, pokercoaching.com, has almost entirely interactive content, right? We have quizzes, which are straight up interactive, right? You have to tell me what you would do before you get to know what my thoughts are on these ideas, my thoughts and all the other pros we have there. We have the homework challenge, which is very, very interactive, very, very tedious, and it's like actual hard poker study, which is good and useful, and it helps you figure out your strategy that you would use at the table, right? Next, we have live webinars where you can get there and talk to the coaches, right? Let me see what we actually have going on this week. Coming up February 25th, Jonathan Jaffe for Poker Coaching Premium members reviewing his 5-diamond Bellagio $10,000 6th place. You can get there and ask Jonathan Jaffe, one of the best exploitative players in the world, what he was doing in these hands and why. And that's basically a private coaching session, right? Then on the 26th, the very next day, Matt Affleck has a webinar, Flop Continuation Betting when out of position as the pre-flop raiser. Spot that comes up a lot, right? And that is very good and useful, right? So you want to make sure whatever you're studying is interactive. And if what you like, let's just say you like some random poker personality, but they only make videos, which, to be fair, the vast majority of people only make videos. What I would suggest you do is take notes. Take a lot of diligent notes. Just taking notes and pausing the video before they make their action, and you say what you would do in your head, or you write it down, whatever. That will go a long way to making any piece of content very interactive. Because we have classes on poker coaching as well, and classes are good. They have benefits. The main benefit is the coach can prepare ahead of time and make sure their thoughts are very concise and well put together. Doing it live is a little bit more difficult because inevitably you will mess something up or stumble over your words or get a little bit confused. And that kind of thing happens. Every once in a while I'll just be sitting there and I can't remember an equation to save my life. But, I'm like, look, give me 10 seconds, it'll come to me. You don't have to do that kind of thing in a pre-recorded video. But that's okay. But anyway, on poker coaching, we have loads and loads of content we've just uploaded over the last few weeks. You all asked me how to make a webinar, how to use Power Equalab. Matt Affleck did it for us, right? Michael Acevedo just went through a tough final table using, discussing ICM concepts, right? Using very, very clear examples. And these are just good things for you to go and watch and study as long as you're doing actively. I personally, though, much prefer webinars. And the reason I like the live interactive webinars is because it's almost like you're forced to be interactive, right? And I like the quizzes a lot because you're forced to be interactive. One of the reasons, well, probably the main reason, there was a training site called Card Runners. It failed. And that was despite them having probably all of the market share at one point. They failed, I think, because their site was not interactive at all, in the least bit. It was not interactive in the least bit. Kevin Boudreau, welcome. Thanks for the poker coaching patches. You're very welcome. Thanks for representing. So there are some other programs that are highly interactive, but the problem is that basically all of them have problems. So someone mentioned advanced poker training earlier. They have the one aspect of their site that I really like is their play your hand, you play 100 hands and then you compare it to the way the pro played those same 100 hands and you see what differences there were. I think that's actually a really good feature of that site because you get clear information and the pro goes through and talks about all of the interesting spots, which is very valuable. They have bots that you can play against. I'm not so sure all the bots are all that realistic, which is a bit of a problem. You have programs like Poker Snowy that are not necessarily applicable to games that most people play, but it does do a good job of, it has a description box that says what it thinks you're doing wrong, which is very good because it's giving you at least some feedback some of the time. There are programs like DTO, Dominic Nisha's app, which I think they're great. It's great for high stakes players, but I think it's probably actually quite bad for small stakes players. You may say, why is it bad? It's teaching GTO poker. Well, first things first, it doesn't tell you why. They just added a feature where you can rank yourself against other players, and it turns out no one's getting more than 60% of the questions right. So what's that mean? Well, it means a lot of the stuff is just essentially random or close to random. If you type in the EV loss in these scenarios, it's effectively none, but it gives you the wrong answer, right? And yeah, that's nice, but it's not so useful. There was one spot I just sat and played last night because I was staying up. I was sick and coughing. And I had the top score for this one specific spot. Yet, like I said, I was only getting 60% right or 63% right or something. And it doesn't seem like a good score, right? And also, so there's no reasoning behind, there's a reasoning behind it, but it doesn't tell you what the reasoning is. And also, the other problem is that it presumes very specific ranges, which I think is a big problem with a lot of the computer-based programs, is that they presume the opponent and you have the same ranges. And I can tell you, no one's playing GTO pre-flop with any stack size. And also, when you're 20 big blinds deep in a tournament, quite often you don't want to be playing the GTO strategy anyway, because there's value in either conserving chips or just jamming and forcing your opponent to fold their equity. So it's not even applicable, right? It's applicable to a very specific game, but it's not the game that anyone plays. I actually had a coaching session the other day, a live coaching session. I basically never do those, but I had one the other day with a kid, and we ran out of hands for him to discuss because he went through all the hands he had written down. And I decided to pull out GTO and go through it. And he's like, immediately, this is not applicable to my games at all. Because in my games, I'm playing small stakes cash games or small stakes tournaments. I raise, I get 4 callers, right? And they're calling with all sorts of stuff. And they only threw it up at the nuts. And so right there, that app, the idea that this is going to be useful for me goes completely out the window. Which is why you want to make sure, again, you're studying things that are very applicable to your game. So you need to make sure you're studying either from someone who's playing a similar game to yours. This is what happens when you do stuff live. First things first, make sure your coach either is beating or has beaten the game they are teaching in the past. Highly important. If you hired me to be your 7-card stud coach, you'd be making an error. And I would literally never teach anyone 7-card stud because I don't know how to play the game very well. So make sure whoever you hire is actually good at the game. If you hire a random guy off the street or a random guy who's like posting ads on weird sites and who is clearly not with it, well, you should not expect to have good results. You need to hire good people. Now, I realize the problem with that is good people are expensive. So a workaround from that, if you want a private coach, hire someone who is winning in your games and pay them like 1.5 times their hourly rate. If you do that, most people are going to be pretty happy with teaching you. And you're going to be learning from someone who is currently beating your games. They may not be the best coach. They're probably not because they probably don't have experience or they have little experience. But that's going to be a good way to get someone who is very applicable to you, right? People are saying on Instagram you're having buffering issues. Well, go watch on YouTube, youtube.com/pokercoaching. Check that out. If you are watching on YouTube, click like, click subscribe, share it with your friends. If you're on Twitch, you can click follow, I think, something like that. If you're on Facebook, you can click like. You can click all sorts of stuff. Click the little buttons that are good for me. I would appreciate it. So you want to make sure that you are learning from someone who either has beat the games that you were playing or is beating the games that you were playing. Ideally, you will also watch content that is somewhat applicable to you. Now, Kevin just says, isn't Jonathan Jaffe's 5-Diamond WPT webinar out of our stakes? It is, but the cool thing about WPTs is often they don't play like super high stakes tournaments because a lot of people satellite in, because live poker tournaments are generally just kind of soft, and it's still very relevant. Also, he's explaining very exploitative strategies, so it's not that he's explaining how to beat these specific stakes, which is what you see whenever you're watching like a Twitch stream, right? You're seeing someone effectively autopilot because you know they're 6 tabling or 8 tabling and they're streaming. They're not paying great attention. And also they're autopiloting for the stakes they are playing. Whereas here you have someone 1 tabling, maximally exploiting very specific opponents, which really applies to any stake, right? And that's why I really like learning from the very exploitative players, because they are teaching you how to play against anyone you encounter. Whereas the very GTO players are usually teaching you how to play against good GTO robots with adjustments built in, right? So I think that's very relevant. Can streams be misleading if the individual is taking an exploitative approach that you're not aware of? I mean, look, I already told you shouldn't be watching streams for educational content unless they are very clearly meant to be educational content. For example, we have God's Big Toe and Crazy Sixes. They do a study stream where they go through poker coaching quizzes before their sessions on Saturdays at noon Eastern time. And this is like a straight study stream, right? And I think that's very relevant. You have Dominic Niche streaming himself playing his DTO app, trying to figure out how to get better than 60% right. And like that kind of thing is useful because you're at least getting the framework behind why the good players are doing what they're doing. But just watching someone play 6 tables at a time, it's tough for that to be too educational. Especially whenever it comes to getting really specific on things. You'll certainly see like good general default strategy, but you're not going to get like any sort of thorough, in-depth, well-thought-out course. There was one streamer a while back who actually he has a training site, and he mentioned in his training site, because I watch all training content, he mentioned in his training site that when he streams, he purposefully plays poorly in some spots to throw off his opponents and for them to think that he is bad. when he's streaming, especially in the small stakes games when he's streaming. So he'll normally play high stakes, but when he's streaming, maybe he plays small stakes and then purposefully plays poorly. Think about what that does to your fan base. I mean, the idea that you are going to actively deceive your fans sounds just like horribly unethical to me. Yet, that is how some people think. And, I mean, to be fair, I guess a coach could horribly deceive their followers as well. I can tell you, I don't do that. I tell you all exactly everything I know. But that is always a concern. There's always a concern that you're getting either wrong information or not all the information. And I guess that just comes down to trust. Do you trust the person who is teaching you? And I can tell you, I trust all of my coaches thoroughly. I'm trying to think, are there any of them I would not lend money, not ask to coach my kids? No, I would ask all of them to do that, and that would be A-okay. And there are plenty of other poker players out there who are not necessarily like that. So make sure you... I mean, look, trust is a hard thing because you could always just be wrong, right? And to be fair, I have, like 8 coaches on poker coaching. I'm probably wrong about 1 or 2 of them, just based on math, right? And, I mean, that's unfortunate. It is what it is. And that's why you always have to make sure you protect yourself to some extent. And that's why it's good to get, multiple opinions every once in a while. 165 likes right now. Excellent. Let's do it. Let's get lots of likes. Can we get to 1,000 likes? Is that a thing? It's probably not a thing. It's too early in the morning to get 1,000 likes. There's not 1,000 people awake in the whole world. Okay. So... you want to make sure you're learning from someone who's winning the game. You want to make sure that you are learning games that are applicable to you, and you want to be learning in a very interactive way. Okay? Very, 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 very important. You're good in smaller field terms, but you want to do better when there's more people. Well, there's more variance in those. It'll have 1,000 on rewatches. It will have 1,000 on rewatches, that's sure. Can you make some content on heads-up display usage? Just Google. Go to YouTube and search heads-up display usage. I'm sure that'll come right up. The problem is with heads-up displays is that all the sites use various formulas to determine the stats. Some heads-up displays are different. Sites are banning heads-up displays. So, no, I'm probably not going to go make a video on that because I think it's going to become less and less relevant as we go forward and the sites start getting rid of the tracking programs. And there's also, I'm sure there are people out there who are heads-up display geniuses. I'm certainly not. So check out that, right? Again, going back to the idea of, am I an expert at that? And no, I'm not an expert at heads-up displays. I have a relatively basic heads-up display. It has, 16 stats, which, is minimal. I'm not, using NoteCaddy a ton or anything like that, so I'm not the guy to ask. Just like I'm not the guy to ask about 7-card stud. Okay, so now we know what to study. Can I speak a little slower, please? Oh, no, I can't. I've tried to speak slower. The problem is you all get me excited. And when I get excited, I just get going. All right, so now that we know what to study and how to study it, I suggest you study a lot. If you're not already beating the games, if you're a losing poker player, this should be obvious, but you should keep track of your results. If you're a losing poker player, you should be studying the vast majority of the time. The vast majority, right? For example, if I wanted to become a doctor, let's say I wanted to become a doctor, would I ever just go into the operating room and start operating with little to no training? I know how to cut a piece of steak, so maybe I could cut the person open. But beyond that, I think I'd be relatively useless. And that would be ridiculously dumb for me to go and try to become a doctor without studying, right? Now, poker is not as difficult as being a doctor, I presume. But it still is kind of similar, but a lot of people don't view it as similar. They think poker is a fun game. Oh, you get good at games by playing the games. And to be fair, you do get better at games as you play games. But at the same time, you get way better at games by studying games. Does my training site cover live tournament play for those of us from the US without access to online grind? Yes, of course it does, Turk. If you don't know what poker coaching offers, go to pokercoaching.com, read the homepage, sign up for a completely free trial. If you want access to the full site, sign up and pay for the full site. And if you don't like it, cancel it and I'll give you your money back. If you do not like my work, I don't deserve your money and I don't want your money, right? I want to help you significantly better your poker and your life. And if I don't help you with that, then Why should I be rewarded, right? It's very different than a lot of the other coaches out there. If you pay attention, a lot of them will not give you a refund, and they want to lock you into a giant price up front. I try to keep the price low up front and let you get a refund because I know my content's good. And, we get some refunds, like 1%, 2%, something like that. And hey, it's okay. But anyway, you all get me on a tangent about things that are wrong with the poker coaching industry. And to be fair, why most of the poker coaching sites don't actually succeed. That's not what this topic's about. Today we're talking about studying. Is there an app that you can use to track your stats? I just use Excel, personally. Every day I come home, I write down won or loss. I write down expenses. It's really all you need for taxes. There are some apps on your phone. I'm sure you can just search them. There was one called Poker Journal a while back, but I think it stopped getting updated. But there's stuff out there that will keep track of the number of hours you play, will keep track of the time you play, keep track of the venue you play, et cetera, et cetera. At this point, I'm not so concerned with that. But if I was in there grinding like cash games every day and I was trying to figure out if I make more money at 2-5 or 5-10 or 1-3, I would certainly like to have better information. At this point, I'm not so worried about what my exact win rate is in every single game. If people keep saying Instagram's not working well, please go to YouTube, youtube.com/pokercoaching. It's a much better experience to watch. You can see the chat. Sometimes I throw up images. So yeah. Type said, you got a job as a dealer yesterday. Awesome. Congrats. Have fun. If you're not a premium member, then you're missing out. Best site out there. Well, thank you. I do my best. What package would I recommend on my site? I would always recommend a premium because it gives you full access to everything. There's a cash game masterclass there too, which is very, very good for people who are not already playing great. What do I use in live cash or tournaments to record my hands for later? I use a notepad file now. I used to use a pen and paper. Go to jonathanlittlepoker.com/notes and check it out. What's the longest downswing I've had in a period that I grinded 16 hours in a day? I don't grind 16 hours a day. That's ridiculous. Why would you ever do that? That just seems asinine. Biggest downswing in a day? I don't know. Whenever I used to play cash games at Bellagio, I would quit if I ever got down about 450 big blinds. That probably happened once every 2-ish weeks, something like that. Can you get more small stakes cash game quizzes? Sure. Excel's the greatest app of them all. Yeah. Poker Ledger, people are saying. Why would anyone want training from a bad player? The problem is a lot of people don't know who the bad players are. There are plenty of people out there who can speak well enough, who do a good job of presenting themselves as good. And I mean, to be fair, they're good at tricking people. And it's tough because, hell, maybe that's me, right? I don't think it is, but maybe it is. And you have to get very good at discerning who is putting out educational content, right? That is good, useful, applicable. And the way you do that is often by comparing coaches to other coaches to some extent, and you can see which players are using comparable thought processes and which ones are just way off. And the ones that are way off are either super geniuses or they're not. And if they're not crushing the high stakes games, if they're not playing the high stakes games, if they don't have a bankroll, if they are, trying to nickel and dime people for pennies by having ads on and whatnot, well then they're probably not the best poker players. You're not at Falls View? No, I'm absolutely not at Falls View. I don't know the stakes of Falls View, but if they don't have 25Ks and 10Ks and 5Ks, then I'm not leaving this chair. Let's see. Okay. How can I optimally study in order to learn as much as possible ASAP? In particular, in Poker Coaching Premium. Go through the Cash Game Masterclass. Cash Game Masterclass is highly valuable. If you've not gone through that, go through it immediately. Okay, so if you're not a winning player, study a lot. That's what I'm trying to get to here. If you are not already beating the game, why are you not studying a ton? They have only a 5K main, LOL. Right, exactly, Trevor. If they have only a 5K main, it's not worth it. Let's talk about travel rake real quick while we're here. Let's say we can go to Falls View. Let's say we're going to make $5,000 in equity in 10 days. Let's just pretend. $5,000 divided by 10 days, $500 per day. Minus expenses at $150 a day, so we're winning $350 per day. Is it worth it for me to get up and leave my wife and kids to go make $350 a day? Absolutely not. For many people it is, though. But that's not where I am in life right now. And it's important to recognize that, right? Just because some things make sense for some people does not mean it makes sense for other people. Whenever I'm going to play, ideally I want it to be like $700 a day, $1,000 a day minimum. Even then, like that's close. Like the party poker event in Nottingham was a good example where it was a close one, but they had a 10K, a 25K, a 5K, a 2K, satellites where they added seats, which is good. And that was worth it. What did I think I was going to make? I was going to make 10, 15, 20. I was going to make like 20K in a week. So yeah, there it is, $700 a day, right? And I think that becomes where it starts to make it worth it. Volume is very important to me at this point in life. And volume and high buy-in size in soft games. If you don't have all three of those, I'm probably not going. I used to work in a comic book store. Do I have a favorite author, writer, title, etc.? No, I like Magic the Gathering. They just happen to sell Magic the Gathering cards in comic book stores. To be fair, actually, they didn't even sell comics in my comic book store. It was a sports card store and a video game store. But I've spent plenty of time. Oh my god, I can't talk. I've spent plenty of time in comic book stores playing Magic the Gathering tournaments. How do you find your leaks in your game? Talk to people. Share friends with. Oh my god. This is why I don't do stuff live. Share your hands with your friends and ask them questions. And when I say your friends, I mean your friends who are good at poker, who are better than you. Right? So you need to make a point to study from people who are better than you and discuss hands with them. I mean, we have a Discord chat where a lot of people are actively working hard. You lied about working in a comic book store. In my view, comic book store means a place where people sell nerdy things. They certainly sold nerdy things where I worked. But no, they did not sell the physical comics, and that's A-okay. Sometimes you have to simplify things to give a frame of reference. It's very important. Imagine I said I worked at a sports card store. First things first would be, how in the world is there only a sports card store? I don't want to get into all that, right? And people know that people go and play card games at sports card stores, or at comic book stores. So it's very important to make sure that you are speaking in a way that people can thoroughly understand. Discord alone is worth a membership fee. Well, yeah, I think it's good. If you're not on the Discord, by the way, go to the tool section of go to the community section of Poker Coaching. Let me show you all real quick. If you go to Poker Coaching, let's see. Scroll right down here to community. Click on join our Discord. Also, you can apply for backing. We back our students every month, a few of them. You can request a patch. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, YouTube, etc. So make sure you get in on that. So, yeah, I mean, you say I don't have any poker friends. What am I supposed to do? Well, make them. I didn't have any poker friends. Whenever I first started playing poker, I didn't know anyone. I lived in Pensacola, Florida, and no one played poker there. And I was too young to go to a casino, so how did I meet people, right? Well, I started posting on the internet, and that's exactly what I've made for you. We have a good internet Discord chat for you. We have a forum for you, and that's highly valuable. We also have question and answer webinars with our coaches, right? If you're a poker coaching member, it's almost like you're paying them to be your friend, and that's very relevant. So anyway, how much should you be studying? That's the most important question. If you're bad at poker, you should be studying like 90% of the time, maybe more. A lot of people don't like that answer because they want to play. They came and they want to play. You requested a patch a couple times. Joe, perhaps you gave the wrong address. I actually just got 2 return packages. I forget who they were to. Send an email, support@pokercoaching.com, and ask for it. So, how do you defeat a card where you're getting colluded? Well, don't play where you're getting cheated, obviously. Obviously, just because the game exists does not mean you have to play. Is it fine to go through the whole cash game masterclass all in one? Take it slow. We actually just added a bunch of quizzes between each one to make sure you're really testing your skills. If you're getting all the questions right, you're probably good to go. If you're missing them, then no. Do I believe insert any random poker player's name who's decent? They say they've never studied a hand in their life. I'm sure everyone has thought about a poker hand in their life. If you haven't thought about a poker hand, yet somehow you're winning at poker, well, you're just a liar. Now, does studying mean run it through Monk or Solver? I believe there are plenty of poker players who are winning who have not ran their hands through Monk or Solver. So, there you go. Should you make notes on the key points of your lesson? Your goal is to study 4 hours each day. Yeah, study a ton, man. Study a ton, take notes, be involved, be engaged with it, right? If you just like sit there and have a beer and watch it while you fall asleep, you're not going to get very good. But if you're alert, you're studying, you're paying attention, you're going to get good pretty quick. So whenever you are not winning at poker, you need just to be studying so much. It's important to focus on 1 or 2 topics a week. No, I think you need to be taking the holistic approach whenever you're not good. If you're not good yet, you need to learn how to play reasonably well, right? Steve Z says, you knew the game was crooked, but it was the only game in town. Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Just because it exists doesn't mean you have to play. There's so many casinos out there that charge exorbitant rake. And people are like, oh, well, I have to go play this game. They have a tournament. It's $100 with 40 of it going to rake, but hey, it's the only one I can play. You don't have to play. Hate to break it to you, you do not have to play. Especially if you're just giving away your money. As Mike says, smash the like button. That's right. Hit the smash button. That's funny. So make a point to realize that if you're not winning, it means you're bad. Or you're playing in a game that's unbeatable. If you're bad, then you must study, you must get good. If you don't study, you're just always going to lose. Fine, next. Once you become a reasonable player, you're winning a little bit in the small stakes games. What now? Well, now you want to continue studying, but study a little bit less and play a little bit more. And that's going to allow you to start building a bankroll, because you're a winning player now, right? It's going to allow you to get some experience. But even then, you still need to be studying a lot. If you have to realize, when you're new-ish to poker, or when you're not winning much money, assuming you want to like actually win significant money from poker, your goal should not be to like grind out 10 big blinds per hour playing 5 cent, 10 cent no limit. You're just not going to make much money doing this. And it's kind of a waste of your time when you could be studying more, making half as much money now, but after, another 3 months of study, your win rate could have 1.5x up or doubled it or something like that. And that's very, very relevant, right? So your goal when you're starting is not necessarily to win as much money as possible, but to get as good as possible. And once you get good, once you become a winner in like 1-2 games, 1-2 no limit games, or in $500 buy-in tournaments, well, now you can just like show up and print equity, right? Like imagine you win $20 an hour at cash games, you're off to the races. I mean, think about it. Let's get out the calculator real quick. Let's say you make $20 per hour. How long? 350 hours. That's only 10 weeks. 2.5 months, and you will have won $7,000 if you just sit there and you're disciplined and you make $20 an hour playing soft 1-2 no limit cash games. 10 weeks to have a nice full bankroll. Play 10 more weeks, you have a real bankroll, start playing 2-5, right? And I mean, is there any other place where you can start making $50 an hour after putting in 5 months of effort? 5 months of good hard effort? I mean, there's I don't think there's very many, right? Especially where you sit in your chair and don't really have to like do manual labor. And that's very attractive, yet a lot of people don't do it. They just want to play and break even or play and lose. They think that they're going to learn a lot by playing, but in reality, you learn way more from studying, and you learn way faster from studying than playing. There's this idea that if any human played a game long enough, they would eventually play the GTO strategy or know the GTO strategy. The problem, though, is that it'll take that human about 100,000 years to do it. So we need a little bit of help. You have to learn from other people who have came before you. You have to study the relevant things, and you really do need to be studying a lot. How do you find time to study? Well, make it a priority. If it's not a priority, you're not going to do it. Do you think getting staked is a good idea if you have to give them 50% of your winnings at the end of a week? Depends on the way the deal's set up. This sounds like an awful deal, by the way, for the backer, assuming it is exactly as you listed. Because let's say, it's very, very easy. What you do is whenever you play, if you're up, you're just done for the week. Take your money. You're done. If you're down, you can keep playing. If you get stuck, let's say $100,000 in the week, doesn't matter. You don't owe any of that back. Then you start over fresh the next week. Then, you get up $500, take your $250, be done. You get down, you should always just keep playing. So it doesn't make any sense. You should play until you're up a little and then go from there. That's just like a very, very bad setup. Any setup like this where the deal resets is only good if the reset period is very, very long. Actually, I had a backing deal like this a long time ago where it was for $500,000 in buy-ins, tournament buy-ins, with the max buy-in being 10K. And that means we're going to play at least 50 tournaments, more probably like 150 tournaments. And you'll have at least somewhat consistent results over that period. But after a week, no, that's ridiculous. What do you think about tournament selection while in Vegas? I have no idea. I'm not playing small stakes tournaments in Vegas. Probably just go to Aria, go to Bellagio, go to Caesars, wherever they have tournaments. Cash games are usually softest at the places where the regs are not, which are going to be places like MGM, Bally's, random casinos on the Strip. Those games are going to be softer than places like Bellagio or Aria, where there's a lot of good regulars. Is it smarter to practice playing 1-2 live once every 3 days, or by playing online? Victor, it sounds like you're actually trying to do this, so I would tell you to be playing online. You can get way more experience online for a fraction of the investment, and I would tell you not to play 1-2. I'd tell you to play like 5 cent, 10 cent. If you can get to where you can beat 25 cent, 50 cent online, you're just going to crush live games whenever you get there. So that's a good way to get in more hands, more experience, and you also get to maximize your time because you can sit at home and do it, right? You study my stuff. Small stakes cash games hasn't been helpful. 3x opening has been a leak. Why is it a leak? You find that most villains' biggest leak is in their pre-flop calling range. Well, good. If they're calling with all sorts of garbage, that's great. What's wrong with that? Learn to play multi-way. Yeah, but you have to work it out of makeup. Well, so look, Evolve, you didn't explain the scenario right. So this is a straight makeup deal. It's not that you cash it out every week. It's just a straight makeup deal. Is that a good deal? No. I mean, you should basically never want to get backed. The times you want to get backed are when the buy-ins become exponential, and that's basically it. Because otherwise, you should just move down, play in softer games, and have a bigger win rate, right? Usually people get back to play a buy-in 1 times higher than theirs, or maybe 2 times higher than theirs, and that just doesn't make sense. You'd much rather just keep all of your own action. So no, do not get backed. It's a mistake unless the buy-ins are going exponential. Have you ever thought about doing a live seminar in person? I've done 1, 2, 3, 4 live seminars in person in my life. Maybe more. I think 4. Oh no, 5, 6. I've done 6 live seminars in person. Am I going to do any more? Probably not. If all I have to do is show up and talk, I'll do it. If I have to organize a thing like I've done in the past, not so much. Should you chop in a 2-5 timed game? Probably not. You want to get experience, right? Remember, you're not playing to make money. You're playing for experience. Experience will lead to all the money long term. You just have to be a little bit patient. If you have no experience or little experience playing blind versus blind, you're going to be bad whenever you play against people who won't chop. Do I believe that some games are less luck? I don't know. I don't care about things like luck. Luck's irrelevant. Also, I don't play those games. Why are you asking me about Raz or Badoogie or Big O? I've literally never played a hand of Big O in my life. None of that matters. Are you asking which game has more variance? I don't know. Because I haven't played those games. How many people succeed at becoming professional poker players? What's my estimate for how many people actually win money at poker? And what is a professional? Does professional mean they don't have a job? If that's the case, there are plenty of people out there who make $20K a year. Or is professional more like making $100K a year? There's way fewer of those, obviously. Modern Poker Theory is available at dnbpoker.com. Go get it. Should you raise bigger if you expect your opponents to call with the same range? Yeah. If you expect them to call with the same ranges for a larger amount, you might as well just raise larger and get more money in the pot when you're the favorite, right? 5 big blinds, 100 at 5 cent, 10 cent online. Is that good enough to beat 1-2? Probably. But I would tell you to just move up to 10 cent, 20 cent online and see what happens. Because this 5 big blinds per 100 is not great. Do you play online? Yes. I actually just released a course where I played a bunch of 50 cent dollar and 1-2, and I think, did I play 2-5 some? I don't remember. I played cash games on Party Poker, and I did that for like 8 hours, and we had nice results, and we explained everything that I did in that time period. Also, coming up on the... Where's my phone? Oh, my phone's up here. Well, next month... When is it? Goodness. I think next week, like the 28th. I don't know when this webinar is. I'm going to be reviewing I think it's a $1,000 tournament that I took 3rd place in online last time I played. You know, I don't like U.S. poker rooms. I love American. I love poker rooms. But if that's all you have to play, since live isn't nearby, and the 1-2 games are weak, are the 1-2 games weaker online now than they were at Black Friday? No, Black Friday was way softer. I'm not sure what you're asking me here. If you know your opponent goes along with aces, what are we hoping to call? You never know your opponent has aces unless they show it to you. You cash out 50% of the time. Should you be cashing more often? In tournaments? No. You should be cashing less often. You should be cashing like 30% of the time. You're actually probably cashing too much, which means you may not be winning all that often unless your opponent's just like really, really, really soft. Blackjack Panic Attack. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. You all try. Lots and lots of questions today. There must be a lot of people here. How do you figure out big blinds per hour? Play 100 hours. Figure out how much you won. It's got the calculator. Let's say we won $5,000 in 100 hours. That means we made $50 an hour, right? Now, what was the big blind? If the big blind was, let's say you're playing 2-5, you divide this number by 5. That means we made 10 big blinds per hour. Let's say we made $1,000 in 500 hours. Oops. Means we made this much per hour. Let's say we're playing 1-2 divided by 2 equals 1 big blind per hour. Why are the Zoom games tougher? Because the ecosystem is essentially ran way faster than the slow ecosystem. You play hands way faster in Zoom, which means the bad players lose their money at a faster rate per hour. And inevitably, the bad players go broke quicker. And if the bad players go broke quicker, they're going to stop playing so much. So now you're just left with very good players, which means the worst of the good players become losers. And then they eventually realize we're losing, then they quit. And then the worst of the next good players realize they're losers, then they quit. Which, happens in the regular poker games too, except for essentially in the regular poker games, people have more time to accumulate more money to go and play, and they don't lose nearly as consistently. If you're in the middle of a string of heaters, what do? I don't think about swings. Swings are irrelevant. You're new to this channel, welcome. H. Wenglow. I can't read. When do we stream this? We stream this Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time for 1 hour. Our Texas poker room softer than casinos. I've never played in a Texas poker room. 243 watching. Good morning, good morning. Hope you're having a great day. I actually see that we have 296 people here on the main platforms. We have a few people on Instagram. Magic the Gathering collection. Oh boy, here we go. You're a vintage collector. Are old school cards a good buy at this point? Probably. Anytime anything's in a lull, it's probably good to buy. I think these old school cards are going to significantly drop in value in about 25 years once people like myself stop existing on this earth. Things like sports cards and Magic the Gathering cards and Beanie Babies and all this stuff have nostalgia. And once the people who have that nostalgia for it pass on, their value is going to tank. Most likely. Things like Magic the Gathering may not tank. I do think things like sports cards will tank in about 20 to 30 years. But hey, it's 20 or 30 years for you to get it and go. Right now, I do think that these things are probably a bit low-ish. But I don't know. I'm not a finance expert, that's for sure. I would tell you just shy away from stuff like Ice Age or Mirage, though. Because all the cards in those sets are bad. Especially Ice Age. Ice Age is just like a bad set. Mirage is a pretty good set, though. You all are enjoying poker coaching, so that is excellent. Any advice on sitting in a cash game where people have big stacks? Just play whatever your effective stack is. Right? You want to make sure that, like, if somebody has $1 million and you have 100, you're just playing $100. So don't worry about the people with big stacks. You're always playing the effective stack size. Do not forget that. Don't be intimidated. Don't think, oh man, I can't win because this guy's just going to go all in on me again and I'm going to have to win 4 hands in a row. Realize that every time you get it in, you're printing equity. Would you rather be a human with strawberry thoughts or a strawberry with human thoughts? Probably the strawberry with human thoughts. I don't know, though. $42 an hour at 1.3. Great. That's exactly what we're going for here. Over 800 hours. Oh, my God, you're crushing it. Let's get out the calculator. Can't do that kind of math. 42 times 800 equals. So you have $33,000 at 1.3 no limit. Oh, my God, that's crushing it. You should move up. You put high-end bonuses in your hourly rate. Like at the end of the year, yes. Because in theory, you paid all that money in, right? And you're going to get back roughly that amount of money, or a little bit less probably, by the end of the year. So yeah, you should count that. Don't count it as like, don't think, oh, I had a great week because I hit the high-end jackpot, but your weekly results are irrelevant. I don't think Wizards is going to abolish the reserve list. I do think they are going to continue pushing Arena hard and perhaps forget about Live. Sports card values have already tanked, which means they're probably a good buy. Because if it's anything like the Magic the Gathering world, like I said, people roughly my age are coming into money and they are willing to spend it on things they have nostalgia for. Is $2 no limit tougher than $5 no limit? Because the rake is higher? Probably, actually. I don't think the games are all that difficult. Louis Philippe, welcome. Good morning. You've been here the whole time. Says poker coaching, since premium is out, your game has improved so much. The coaching webinars with solvers, homework ranges, etc., etc., etc. You have a great product that's basically free. Well, it's $3 a day. But yeah, we do our best, and we're continuing to improve it. We have a lot of new stuff coming out. It's been a big headache for me. We have a tournament masterclass coming out at some point. I'm basically done with the PowerPoint. 3/4 done with the PowerPoint. That'll be finished soon. Then I'll make that. Once I get the PowerPoint done, that's the hard part. The planning and the preparing part's hard. The actual recording of it's kind of easy for me. So that's coming out soon. We have an app. It's been sucking away all of my money and some of my time. Hopefully that comes out soon. So yeah, that'll be fun. Why do I think poker or strategy games in general attract more women than men, or more men than women? I think it has a lot to do with how people are raised. It has a lot to do with what people are pushed into at a young age. And once you start doing things at a young age, you tend to stick with them. And if parents do not push their female children into games, then they won't be into them as adults to some extent. I don't know the answer for that for sure, though. When you try to realize your equity, it turns into 0. I don't know what you're saying here. If you're tired, do you find yourself sticking around to try to win? No, absolutely not. If I don't want to play, I get up and leave. Do not ever think, ever, that I'm going to sit here and play until I'm a winner. The idea that I have to play until I'm up is ridiculously bad. Some people pride themselves on having almost no losing sessions. And then you realize, well, they don't have very many losing sessions. And when they do, they lose 3,000 big blinds. This is a weird question right here. Is it better to be exploitable or GTO in a 50 no limit pot? 50 no limit games are soft. You should be exploitable all the time. The idea of a winning session does not matter. Should you be check raising flush draws that have no showdown value? Probably. Should you play more loose when stacking? I don't know what stacking means. That means when you have a big stack, should you be playing lots of pots? I mean, you should play just good poker. Play good, fundamentally sound poker. How long until the tournament class is released? I don't know. We're actually finally getting to that point where I can actually sit down and make the thing. I don't know, probably a few months. Probably, maybe less, I don't know. I have a pretty clean plate for the next few months, so I mean, it will get done between now and then. It's just a matter of when do we decide to release it at that point. But we release stuff pretty quick. I never really understood, I mean, I guess I get the idea, but I never understood the idea of why, like, people will make a product and then just not release it for like a year. I guess their thought is like, oh, I'm going to build up hype for a year, but then they don't. They just make people annoyed. And I mean, I'm telling you, if it gets done, it's getting released pretty soon. It may be like a month because we do need to promote the thing a little bit, but that's important. Not tons of women in here. That's unfortunate. I do appreciate the 3.6% of women that we have here today with me. Realize you could be spending your time with any other poker player. Yet here you are, so thank you. What's the optimum big blind buy-in for a cash game? That is a bad question because it depends on who's at your table. What are the stack sizes? Where are the stacks positioned? What is your skill level? Etc. Do I recommend simple poker? I don't know what simple poker is. How many times do you rebuy if you get felted? Doesn't matter. In theory, though, if you're losing in a game, if you lose even a single pot in a game, odds are that game is tougher than the average game. And as you lose more and more pots in a game, odds are it becomes tougher and tougher. Like, it is a tougher and tougher game, right? So when you are losing, in theory, you should be very quick to quit. Phil Ivey used to do this a ton online. He crushed online doing this, where he would play heads up. He'd play anybody heads up in the world. And if he lost a buy-in, he would quit. If he won a buy-in, he would not quit. So this resulted in him having probably, I don't know, 60%, 70%, 80% losing sessions. Yet he won all the money. How do you win all the money? Well, whenever he had a fish on the hook, he played the fish until the fish was done. And whenever he happened to play against a good player, he would quit basically immediately because he would, if he got sacked, he would quit. Right? So he used the idea of I'm losing in this game, therefore I need to quit very, very intelligently, and that resulted in him winning all the money. So in theory, you actually want to have more. Well, so I'll tell you what my results whenever I was playing at Bellagio every day, 5, 10, 10, 20, I would win about half of my sessions. Only half of them. A lot of people are like, oh, you should be winning 2/3 of the time. No, you should win at whatever rate makes sense based on your overall strategy and the variance you have in your game. I played a high variance strategy. But my winning sessions were about 2 times the size of my losing sessions. And that worked out very nicely. So you have to get the idea out of your head of, like, I want to have winning sessions, because winning sessions doesn't matter. What matters is winning money in the long run. All right, I have to go. Have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. Hope you learned a little bit about studying. Work hard. Study things that are relevant. Study things that are applicable to your game. Study from good winning players. And study interactive things. Get in there and get involved. I made that easy for you. No site like this existed before this came along, by the way. I made this because I knew this is how people get good. So I made pokercoaching.com for you. Go there, sign up for a completely free trial membership. And if you don't like it, well, quit. And if you want more, sign up for Poker Coaching Premium at pokercoaching.com/premium. We have a webinar in a few days with Jonathan Jaffe reviewing some of his major hands, and another one with Matt Affleck right after that, discussing that tough spot where you raise, someone calls in position, and then you have to go first from out of position. So 2 webinars coming up for you in the very near future. We have over 700 quizzes, loads of homework challenges, and all sorts of other good things there. So I work hard for all of you. I know you all think that I only make this stream 3 days a week and that's all I do, but it's actually 8 hours a day every day, sometimes more. But I don't mind. I like it. It's not work if you have fun, right? Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Be nice to someone. Enjoy yourselves. Click like, click subscribe. And I hope you win all the money this weekend.